Bombastic is a puzzle game about dice, blowing up baddies, and finding your grandpa. The game starts with the Aki siblings learning that they have a grandfather who lives in a faraway place and setting off on an adventure to find him. After that strange introduction, we go straight into the tutorial where we learn all about the game mechanics and this. It's a simple concept. You walk around on dice and try to match dice to blow them up and kill enemies. To do that, you have to match the dice, and whatever number you want to blow up, you must match that number of dice. So, to blow up a 2, you need to match 2 2s. To blow up a 3, you must match 3 3s, and so on. When a number explodes, it is able to trigger any number equal to or 1 less than that number, which can cause a chain reaction. The explosions reach as far as the number that caused it, which means that the higher numbers can be more deadly. You and the enemies can be defeated by an explosion if in range. There are also a few objects to pick up throughout the game, but they don't really come into play, so they're kind of irrelevant. You can also walk onto the board where all the same rules apply, except you can now only push dice and you can't change the numbers. After learning all of the rules, we blow up our teacher and face our first challenge, which is a boss fight. This fight was easy because I managed to match 5s and got lucky enough for the boss to walk on them and he got one shot. During fights, the higher the number, the more damage that is dealt. The game consists of 5 worlds, and each world has 3 levels and a boss fight. In World 2, I realized that this game was going to be fairly easy. Most of the setups you find are straightforward and easy to see what to do, so you basically beat the levels first try. To beat the levels, you just have to get to the end, which means you don't even have to kill all the enemies. The game does recognize if you defeat all the enemies or beat the level without dying, but I don't care about that. I just want to beat the game. So when an opportunity came up to just simply walk past an enemy, I took it. The first 2 levels were very easy. The 3rd level was also easy, except this one part. There is a setup that forces you to trigger a chain reaction and blocks you in. It also forces you to pick one of the 2 plungers, which triggers the explosion and you hope you don't die. What I didn't realize until just now is that every time you die, the safe one changes based on the setup. I picked one without thinking the first time and blew up, so I figured the other one was safe. I picked that one the next time and I blew up again. I went back and forth a few times and just kept dying, so I tried a new idea of running back to get out of the range of the explosions. After a few times, I managed to sneak past the enemy and got to the end of the level. And now I just feel stupid knowing how simple it was. Oh well, not the first time, won't be the last time. Then came the boss fight. These fights are easily my least favorite part of the game. Unlike the normal levels, you have to make matches on your own without having a simple setup to easily do. And because of that, it was harder to learn how to make matches. There just wasn't enough time or places to figure out how to make these setups consistent. Trying to learn during the boss fights is hard because there are always new dice popping up and getting in the way. The dice are also getting blown up at random, so any setups you make could get zapped and destroyed or get caught in a chain reaction. It was just plain annoying. I'm sure there are some people that could easily figure out how to move the dice and easily beat these bosses, but I just couldn't. At least not during my time playing this game. This fight took a bit until I finally got a good setup and caused the chef to swallow a 6 and defeat them. I then get to World 3. Again, level 1 is super easy. For some reason, there's a dog on a separate track that you are racing. Except it's not a race at all because the dog doesn't move forward until you get to a certain part. And at the end, there's just a sign that says who was faster. I didn't see anything for winning, which I don't think is even possible because the dog always moves ahead of you. So why was the dog even there? Was it just to make me sad when I lose the race? In level 2, you can see that it is easy to just run by the enemies and not have to worry about them. Some enemies you have to kill and others you can't avoid killing, but most of them aren't a problem at all. Level 3 is just as easy, and then comes the boss fight. There are cats slowly making their way towards the board that can hop on dice and trigger dice if you roll over them. The big cat is the boss and it just goes in circles around the board. So you have to not only avoid the cats while trying to make matches, but you have to try to time it to be able to hit the boss. And the explosions have to actually be big enough to reach the edge of the board to be able to even hit the boss. I didn't even end up trying to directly attack the boss. I just ran around making matches to try to survive the little cats and just hope that I might damage the boss. That did eventually end up working and I beat World 3. World 4 was actually a little bit different. There's ice you can only walk over once, which doesn't actually affect much. There are enemies frozen in ice and you have to use an explosion to melt the ice to kill them or get them out of the way. Then there are icebergs that need multiple explosions to remove. I like these parts because it was actually a time to try to learn how how to make matches, rather than learning in the boss fights. Level 3 was a maze. It had multiple paths to take to get to the end. It was easy until the very end where I had to get rid of an enemy to finish the level. At first, I tried using the dice around it to kill it. After a few tries, I couldn't figure it out. So I got a new idea to get to the ground and simply push the enemy over. That was much easier and I was able to beat the level. Then my favorite part, the boss fight. This one was actually pretty easy. The Caterpillar Queen is invincible with her sentries, so you have to remove them by either blowing them up or rolling over them. Then you can simply damage the queen. I died a few times, but I got it done way quicker and easier than the previous fights. We make it to World 5. The Cloud Realm. Here, you are able to fall off of the board. You can also push dice over the edge. You can use this to get them out of the way, or push into a lower ledge to use elsewhere. You also use lifts to move up and down. This world is just as easy as the rest. You just have to be careful to not fall off. Level 2 was probably the easiest level in the entire game. You were able to run straight past all of the enemies. I only killed one right at the beginning because it was unavoidable. Level 3 had a unique feature of needing keys to open doors, so it actually forced you to do some puzzling. At the end of the level, you need 2 keys. There was actually 3 to collect because the explosions could destroy the keys. It didn't take me long to figure out what to do here, so it was now time for the final boss fight. The first part is a simple dice battle against Angel. To win, you have to get 3 hits on Angel without getting hit 3 times yourself. You roll the dice, and if you have a lower number, you have to defend, and if you have a higher number, you have to attack. Simple as that. Just react fast enough, and it's easy. The only problem is that every time you game over in the main fight, you have to play it again. And trust me, I will be playing it again, many times. After winning the dice game, Angel goes into a mech, and the main fight starts. I hate this fight so much. It's different because you don't damage the boss with explosions. You instead have to put pulsing dice onto each of the red glowing squares with the correct number facing up. This is something that has not been done in the entire rest of the game, so I didn't know how to easily do it. There are also lasers that trigger the dice to explode, and they can kill you. Also, the mech causes a tornado that mixes up all the dice on the board. That means if you manage to get close to making a match on the proper square, it can and will very easily get screwed up. Occasionally, the mech shoots rockets that can kill you. I don't know why that's needed. Everything else makes it difficult enough. I assume that you could use a laser to make it easier by using the dice it triggers to activate the squares. That doesn't work though. You have to use dice that you made a match with or that has been triggered by one of your explosions. I also learned that if you stand on the beginning platform, you are completely safe. I used this to my advantage many times to dodge things or just to take a breather. Eventually, I came up with a strategy. I tried to trigger the dice with 2s because you only need 2 and it was way easier than doing more. Then I just rolled over to one of the red squares, did random movements and hoped that the correct number would show up at the right point. This was actually a decent strategy. All I had to do now was survive and try to get all of the cannons up within 5 lives. I played it safe, and after an hour of trying, on my last life, I managed to beat this stupid boss. Then Angel gave us the halo and wings that we needed to get past the gates and we meet our grandfather. This was a fast game, only taking 2 hours and 40 minutes, bringing my total time to 35 hours and 10 minutes. Puzzle games are one of my favorite types of game, but this one just was not for me. With most of the levels being easy setups, it barely felt like I was actually doing anything. I felt no sense of accomplishment after beating any level, world, or even the game. I've never played a game that involved rolling dice like this game did, so I was excited to play it. But after seeing the first levels, my excitement was gone and it felt like more of a chore to finish the game. I liked the concept, but the execution did not meet my expectations. I give the gameplay a 3 out of 10. I wasn't expecting there to be any sort of story, so the fact that there was one at all was surprising. It's just a group of kids that want to meet their grandfather. It's simple, it's wholesome, there's nothing else to it. I give the story a neutral 5 out of 10, just because there is a story, even with how basic it is. Thank you so much for watching this video and making it to the end. Please let me know your thoughts on the video in the comments below, leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you later. Bye bye.